Hey guys, today I'm sorry it's going to be a bit of a ranty video, but we're going to talk about some really interesting things. And this is 5 species that I consider dream reptiles for me. So there's a lot of like iconic and kind of dream snakes out there that are, they're on the more expensive side, on the more rare side. Like the care is a little bit different or difficult or outside of the norm, but they're still fairly easily attainable. I'm talking a little bit about more really higher up echelons of things where they're very rare, they're very expensive, the husbandry really needs to be dialed in, you need to have large areas, or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to talk about specifically my dream reptiles that in the perfect world, if I had all the money in the world, all the space and time, this is what I would have. And we're going to start with one that's probably pretty iconic that everybody knows about, and that is the Bolin's Python. The Bolin's Python is like the unicorn for snake keepers. Like it's this great Morelia species found in Papua New Guinea. They get very large, very impressive. They are amazingly cool creatures. They're absolutely beautiful with that very like iridescent black sheen with the pale yellow and white underbelly and mouth and the striping. They're just really great animals. The reason why they're very expensive is because number one, most people in the hobby worldwide have had a very difficult time reproducing these things in captivity. There's been a couple people in Europe, and now Kevin McCurley, at Nerd is making a lot of headway doing his own thing. And well, we all have our opinions about everybody here and there, but you got to admit Kevin knows what he's doing when it comes to breeding reptiles. But the other thing is that they're just kind of rare. They're endangered species to begin with, so you don't really want to import them a whole lot. Their care is different. They're actually found at altitude, so these snakes need to be kept a lot cooler than what you would think most species, specifically like Morelia carpet pythons and green tree pythons. They need to be kept cooler than your humidity. Like all of their stuff is just different than how you keep 90% of the other like snake species you have in the hobby. So you kind of need to have its entire own little setup just to be able to take care of those things properly, let alone start to reproduce. And so that's why it's this beautiful, gorgeous, amazing snake that essentially you have to dedicate a lot of time, space, and energy and effort into keeping properly. The next species on my list is one that I think is super cool that you don't see a whole lot. You see them in zoos and stuff, and a couple key people around the country have, and that's the fly river turtle. These things are the coolest turtles out there, at least in my opinion. They're basically a freshwater sea turtle. These things are found in Asia. They don't have feet. They have flippers just like a sea turtle. They have this cute, like, little pig pug nose snout, and they're just so cool. But they get really large, and just their personalities are a lot different than kind of like any other turtle species. Their personalities almost seem a little bit more kind of like a sulcata tortoise or something like that, where males would kind of butt heads a little bit, but they have their own individual quirks and personalities. They're just super cool. But to be able to have that, you need a very large enclosure. I'm talking thousands of gallons of very clean water to be able to let them move around and be able to, appreciate and have enough room and quality to move around for their lives. These things are super cool, super amazing animals, but if you ever want to get one, and they are available here in the States, but if you do want to get one, you need to make sure that you can't just have like a stock tank that you pick up from your feed store that's only 150 gallons. These things get big and they need room to move around. The next one on my list is a really cool one, and this one isn't like an exact species. It's actually a color morph, and that's the cow retic. They're becoming more and more available, but these things originally came from Nerd with Kevin McCurley that reproduced this kind of, leucistic type snake. But as it got older and as it was shedding, just more and more of these dots of color of orange and gold and black and yellow were just coming through to where it looked like just what was basically a cow in a 20-foot long reticulated python body. These things are super cool. I love reticulated pythons. Everyone says that Burmese pythons are kind of like the puppy dogs of the large constrictor snakes, but how much the retics have been bred for over the past decade or more so, not only breeding for color, but for personality, for size with the dwarfs and stuff like that. A retic that came out of the wild in 2000 isn't even close to the same animal that you can get these days from really a lot of different breeders around the country. It's an entirely different animal. the retic that we had in our care and one of the ones that I've worked with over the years, that they were amazing. They were perfectly docile, never had any issues. You could read them very well, and I love reticulated pythons. Currently, where I live, I'm not allowed to have the large constrictor species. A big female green anaconda, a huge Burmese python, our little weird derpy boy Fiero, notwithstanding, because he's not going to get big. I'm not allowed to have those. But eventually, in a place where I'm allowed to have room where I can make a 9, 12, 20-foot long enclosure with room for them to move around and climb, because retics are fairly arboreal even once they get to a large size. They're incredibly intelligent, they like to move around, and just having a big 14, 15, 16-foot long cow retic would be amazing to have, and it's absolutely one of my key species. This next one I think is probably like the Bolin's Python on everybody's dream list. These things are absolutely incredible, and that is the bell phase lace monitor. So lace monitors are one of the largest species of monitor lizards in the world. They're from Australia. They've been in the country for a while. They've also been breeding in Europe, and we get ones from European bloodlines sometimes. But they're pretty rare, they're very expensive, they're very large. They can get almost 8 feet long, a little bit heavier body than like some of the water monitors. But there's a couple different phases of them where some of them are almost entirely black, kind of this melanistic look, and I don't think we have too many of those in the States. Otherwise, they're kind of like a darker one with kind of some thin striping. But the bell phase is a particular phase morph that does occur naturally in the wild that is basically there's solid, large, thick blotches of color of yellow and black. It's like a bumblebee monitor lizard, and they are super cool. The reason why it's a dream species for me is because I not only do not have the room, but I do not have the time to dedicate what it takes to giving a large monitor species. Monitor lizards are arguably the most intelligent reptile that we keep in the hobby as a whole. They're very smart, they're personable, they remember individuals, they remember patterns, all these crazy things, and they are super intelligent. But it's also a large apex predator that can do a lot of damage to someone if you're not interacting with them properly or know how to take care of these animals. And so for someone who has a lot going on with all of the menagerie that I have here, dedicating a lot of time to a large monitor lizard, even a water monitor or even a savanna monitor that gets pretty large but needs a very large enclosure, that needs specific things, the interaction with them, consistency. I know I don't have the time to give to that animal that it needs and deserves, which is why it's a dream species where one day if I could have, my own facility where I'm doing animal education shows and I have more time dedicated to just interacting with something that needs that daily positive reinforcement, I would love to have a bell phase lace monitor, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys do too. The last one on my list is a lot smaller than the ones we were talking about. We were talking about retics and lace monitors and things like that. This one's a little bit smaller, but just one of the coolest lizards on the planet, at least in my opinion, and that's the shingleback skink. So a lot of people are very familiar with, the blue tongue skinks. It's that cute little potato lizard with a big bright blue tongue. My blue tongue skink already kind of wants to bite my face off at the moment, but we're working on him. But the shingleback skink is in that same family. They're part of the skinks, and that's the largest family of lizards that there are in the world. But they're very closely related to the blue-tongue skinks. They have the blue tongue. But basically, they kind of look like a blue-tongue skink with a little bit more stubby tail that looks like a big pine cone on legs, where its defense mechanism, in addition to the blue tongue, its tail is shaped very similar to the head, so that way if the tail is moving around, the predator will go for that, thinking it's the head of the animal versus the actual head of the shingleback skink. These things are super cool, they're pretty rare. They're actually almost monogamous lizards where they'll form bonds themselves, one male and one female, and supposedly there's some ones about like in trios or in quads where it's like one male to 2 to 3 females, and they kind of bond together. So rotating and breeding them like a lot of people do for a lot of reptiles, even blue-tongue skinks, that it's not quite the same. That not a whole lot of people have them here in the States, and to be able to actually take care of one or to even hold one would just be a dream for me. And so that's just something that I would love to be able to have. So that's what personally I think my 5 dream animals I've already gotten to work with and see and interact, and even have a couple like dream species out there. But I think those 5 are, kind of if one day I could have my own facility, my own thing like that, I would be able to have these cool, amazing, great creatures. And that's, kind of why I'm wearing, the Zoo Dream shirt today. This is a big call out to a guy who we lost earlier in the reptile hobby, Forrest Fanny. He was an amazing guy. I only ever met him in passing, and he recently passed away, and he was just a great guy for the hobby. You couldn't say a bad thing about him. Super passionate, super amazing, and he was always trying to follow his zoo dreams. That's why we got the shirt. Big shout out to the guys who brought this possible, to his family who are still trying to move on and carry on his zoo dreams, which is why I wanted to wear this shirt talking about my personal zoo dreams in the future. I hope you guys can take away something from this video, or any of the other content out there that's doing great, pushing the hobby forward. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your personal 5 favorite, any of your zoo dreams, any of your favorite key hopeful species out there. If it's a reptile, if it's a dog, whatever it is, let me know down in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next time.